discovered my boyfriend's affair, broke off the engagement within 10 hours. When Zoe showed up at Ethan and my engagement party wearing a gown from the same collection as mine, I instantly knew this marriage was doomed. Zoe, the daughter of her, the same woman who once stole my father from my mother, was destined to repeat history. Just as her mother, Victoria, had snatched William away from Grace, Zoe would steal Ethan from me. But I wasn't going to let her succeed. I destroyed my meticulously planned engagement party, and I left City A as quickly as I could. I was done. The moment I saw Zoe in that gown, my heart sank. This wedding wasn't going to happen. Determined not to relive my mother's tragic past, I tore Zoe's dress in front of everyone and brought my engagement party to a crashing halt. Victoria, her mother, was so furious she passed out on the spot, and William had to call an ambulance. My fiancé, Ethan, stood protectively in front of them, his face a mix of pain and anger. The sweet, tender words he once spoke to me had turned into sharp, cutting accusations. They just wanted to share in the important moments of your life. Fine, I admit I bought Zoe the dress, but what's wrong with that? You're sisters, aren't you? Isn't it normal to wear matching outfits? For years, Zoe and her mother have tried to win your favor, but you've always been cold and distant toward them. You make it impossible for me to be in the middle. Your mother's death was a suicide. It had nothing to do with Zoe or Victoria. You reported it back then, and even the police refused to open a case. Isn't that proof enough? Not everyone in this world is going to worship you like I do. Neither I nor they owe you anything. You should really reflect on yourself. While everyone busied themselves escorting Victoria to the hospital, I packed my bags and left the city. It had been 10 hours since I shattered my engagement party. And now, 10 hours later, I stood at the door of my grandfather George's house in City B. Weren't you supposed to get engaged to Ethan today? I told you I wasn't going and didn't want to be a part of it. So why have you come back here to pick me up? George's weathered face, lined with years of hardship, stared at me in shock. His eyes eventually landed on the suitcase by my side, and realization dawned on him. I wasn't here to bring him to the engagement party. I was here to seek refuge. I've told you before, Grandpa, maybe one day, I'll be the one taking care of you in your final years. I forced a grin, blocking the door with my suitcase in case he tried to shut me out. Before he could react, I took advantage of his hesitation and quickly wheeled my suitcase inside. After my mother was driven to her death by Victoria and Zoe, I had once proposed to my grandfather that I wouldn't date or marry anyone. I'd spend the rest of my life with him in the village, helping him live out his twilight years in peace. George let me stay for 3 months. Once he saw my grief had subsided somewhat, he took a deep drag from his cigarette and told me I had to leave. He explained that the village was now home to only the elderly and children. A young woman like me without a job or social life would waste away. So, he went on a hunger strike until I agreed to go. Then he went a step further. He stopped taking his medication until I agreed to meet Ethan, the promising young man he had chosen for me. When Ethan began pursuing me, I told my grandfather plainly that my heart was dead. No one could bring it back to life. George didn't respond to my words. Instead, he watched my frail, skeletal figure and asked Ethan for his number. From that day on, he called Ethan daily, urging him to take extra care of me. He told Ethan that I was grieving the loss of my mother, and that my coldness wasn't a sign of dislike. It was just my way of coping. I never found out what else George said to Ethan, but somehow the two of us ended up spending 3 years together. To everyone around us, we were the perfect couple. Never fighting, never raising our voices, always appearing loving and harmonious. But no one knew that I had always been ready to walk away from this relationship. The moment I saw Ethan's shopping history, where he'd purchased identical items and sent them to 2 different addresses, I knew it was time to end the charade. Ethan once told me I was like ice. No matter how much warmth he gave, I would never thaw. I had told him I didn't need to be warmed. What I needed was loyalty. What I needed was unwavering companionship. I had seen it all before. Watched William and Grace, once deeply in love, turn into bitter enemies, locked in a battle to destroy each other. I had seen William declare his love for Grace one day, only to bring Victoria into Grace's chemotherapy room the next, flaunting their shameless affair. I had long stopped believing in men, stopped believing in love. Men change their hearts in the blink of an eye. And the human heart itself? It's far too unpredictable. I was grateful I had never given mine away completely. It allowed me to remain rational when the end inevitably came. I didn't know when Ethan met Zoe, but to me the name Zoe was like poison. Just hearing it made my skin crawl. She and her mother Victoria were my taboo, my ultimate red line. Over the past 3 years, in moments when Ethan's actions moved me, I had opened up to him about my past. I once told him that in this world, the people I despise the most are Zoe and her mother. They are the ones I would rather never see again. I also told Ethan that wherever they appeared, I would never take a single step closer. Back then, he stroked my hair lovingly, his hand gripping mine tightly. He looked at me with such tenderness and resolve and promised me. He said he would remember. In this lifetime, he would never let me suffer. If I didn't like them, if I didn't want to see them, he wouldn't let anyone bring them into my life. But in the end, it was him, Ethan, who personally sent people to fetch Victoria and Zoe, dragging them to our engagement banquet. It was him who, when I confronted Zoe and Victoria, stood against me and shielded my enemies with his own body. I dragged my suitcase back to the room I used to live in. The sheets, which George habitually changed every 2 weeks, still looked clean. I threw myself onto the bed, body and soul exhausted. For years I felt unsafe everywhere. But here, in this house filled with genuine care and unwavering loyalty from my grandfather, I can finally breathe a little easier. Since Ethan seems to love Zoe so much, let him get engaged to her. I'm done playing this game. You're really going to break up with Ethan? That boy's a kind soul. If you let him go, you might not find someone better. George had already sensed that something was off with me when I came back this time. His eyes, clouded with concern, followed me. Standing quietly by my bedside, he hesitated, but eventually spoke. He is kind, yes. So kind, in fact, that he shares his kindness equally with Zoe. When I think about it carefully, Ethan and I have never had a real fight, until today. When we first started dating, I was an emotional wreck. I approached every date with a cold face, barely responding to his words. In my heart, I hoped he would get angry, that he would stop caring about me. That way, I wouldn't have to force myself to go on those dates. If Ethan gave up on me, no matter how much George pushed, there would be nothing he could do. But Ethan never lost his temper. His patience was endless. He treated me like a child in kindergarten, respecting and fulfilling even my most unreasonable demands. Before I met Ethan, I didn't think I had it in me to be a bad person. But compared to him, I often felt like I was being cruel. After all his tolerance and kindness, one day I finally couldn't bear it anymore. For the first time, I reached out to him. From that moment on until 3 days ago, I always thought he might truly be my salvation. Yes, exactly. 3 days ago, I saw something on Ethan's phone. Since we were preparing for our engagement, we've been staying at our future marital home for the past week to discuss the details of the banquet. We each occupied separate rooms. It was pure coincidence that I saw his phone. At first, I thought the order I found was for me. I knew I didn't like bright red and didn't want to compromise my preferences for the sake of the guests. I planned to privately contact the store to change the color of the dress. But when I opened his My Orders page, I discovered something shocking. Every gift Ethan had bought for me over the past 6 months, he had ordered in duplicates. One was sent to my former family home. The other was sent to a rented apartment. One recipient was me. The other? Zoe. When I saw the name Zoe, I thought it must be a coincidence. a case of someone sharing the same name. But after cross-referencing her phone number, I realized it was indeed her. He had been secretly in contact with Zoe. Overwhelmed by disbelief, shock, and a sense of betrayal, I opened Ethan's messaging app for the first time. What I found shattered me. A year after Ethan and I got together, Zoe had reached out to him under the pretense of mending her relationship with me. Their conversation started off polite and distant. But as Ethan began sharing more of his family background on social media, as his posts became filled with pictures and videos of him pampering me and showing off our love, Zoe's tone grew increasingly flirtatious. On my birthday last year, Zoe used the excuse of delivering a gift to meet Ethan after he had dropped me off at home. That night they were together. From that point on, for an entire year, 365 days, Ethan played the role of a devoted boyfriend to me while finding time to be with Zoe. He even attended Victoria's birthday as if he were already part of their family. In one of the photos Zoe sent him, William and Victoria were dressed in traditional attire, with Ethan standing behind Victoria and Zoe beside William. In front of them was a 3-tiered birthday cake. They all stared at the camera, their faces lit with happiness and smiles. A perfect picture of a harmonious family of 4. I remembered. Victoria had indeed called me on her 50th birthday. The moment I heard her voice, I hung up. Ethan once subtly asked me if I had plans for the weekend and if I might want to visit William. I rejected him without hesitation. At the time, I thought it was just a casual inquiry. Never in my wildest dreams did I imagine that when Victoria's birthday came and I didn't show up, Ethan would go instead. And today, at the engagement party, Ethan silently invited Victoria and Zoe to join. He wanted to lay his cards on the table, to force me to accept their family of 4. What he didn't expect was that the version of me he knew, always giving him face during our relationship, would tear Zoe's dress off in front of everyone. Even less did he foresee that when I went crazy, I'd be willing to lay my hands not just on Zoe but on Victoria and William too. Thinking back on the scene of William drenched in wine and Victoria wailing in agony over her broken toe, I regret not making an even bigger spectacle of it. Ethan is the son of one of my comrades. By all accounts, he comes from a strict and proper family. He shouldn't have stooped to such despicable behavior. This world, it's becoming harder and harder for me to understand, George said, shaking his head. Girl, do whatever you think is right. From now on, I won't interfere. But there's one thing you must remember. Our family cannot bear any more losses. The grievances your mother endured from your father. It's up to you to settle the score. And while you're at it, make them pay double for what they did to you. George, though reluctant to believe Ethan could cheat, trusted that I wouldn't use something like this to deceive him. With a heavy sigh, he poured me a cup of the floral tea I used to love. As the steam curled upward, I couldn't help but recall Ethan's gaze at the engagement party. Anger, disbelief, shock, and shame. The more tolerant and forgiving he had been toward me in the past, the harsher and more exacting he was with me today. Victoria and Zoe are my mother's killers. He has never felt my pain, yet he expects me to forgive and forget with a smile. I can't do it. I will never be able to. If the tables were turned, if his stepmother had driven his biological mother to her death, would he be so magnanimous as to become family with her? Absolutely not. Human nature is selfish after all. Ethan may have played the perfect role for 3 years, but eventually everyone slips. I'm glad his mask came off at just the right time. And even more grateful that in those 3 years, I hadn't given myself away entirely. Neither physically nor emotionally. I've always belonged to myself. Don't worry, your granddaughter is much shrewder than your daughter ever was. I've got 100 schemes up my sleeve all ready to go. Unlike my mom, who didn't just have a one-track mind, it was a solid one-track mind. This suitcase of mine? It's not packed with clothes. Thinking of the contents of my suitcase, I glanced down at my phone. I was waiting for Ethan's call. But what I hadn't expected was that the first call I'd receive wouldn't be from Ethan. It was from Zoe. "Olivia, why must you be like this? Ethan brought my mom and me to your engagement party only to ease tensions within the family. We came to integrate into this family. Why do you always reject my mom and me?" Earlier today, when I ripped Zoe's dress off, she looked utterly pitiful, her eyes brimming with tears, her face filled with grievance. She stood frozen until Ethan draped the suit I had designed for him over her shoulders. Only then did her tears finally plop down her cheeks, one after another. "All these years of acting and you're still not tired of it? If you love performing so much, why not apply to a drama program and really hone your craft?" Over the past 3 years, I hadn't entirely severed contact with them. Ever since my mom had thrown herself from the hospital building, driven to despair by Victoria and William, I had deleted and blocked all their contact information. But Zoe always found new ways to reach me. At first, she'd send passive-aggressive messages, pretending to mend fences and urging me to come home. After I cursed her out enough times, she dropped the act. Whenever William showered her and her mother with luxury gifts, she'd be the first to flaunt them to me. The latest designer bags, the most dazzling jewelry from the advertisements. Everything that used to belong to me, piece by piece, was now in Victoria's and Zoe's hands. Knowing full well that I'd been cut off financially by William and Victoria, Zoe would go out of her way to drive an extra hour just to show up at the shop where I worked my part-time job, specifically asking for me to serve her. After I nearly scarred her face with a knife, she no longer dared to confront me directly. Instead, she resorted to taunting me online, stirring up trouble wherever she could. Her petty provocations didn't faze me. I always ignored them. Come to think of it, it had been 2 years since I last answered one of her calls. "Olivia, I know you blame my mom and me for your mother's death, but you have to understand, even if we'd never entered your father's life, your mom still would have died. For years we've discussed it. Maybe back then your mom chose to jump not out of anger at us, but as a way to free herself, and in doing so to free all of us. Your mom was pampered her whole life. After marrying your dad, she lived in comfort and never earned a single penny. The greatest suffering she ever endured was her cancer diagnosis and the pain of chemotherapy." Zoe's shameless, despicable voice rang in my ears once again. If she were standing in front of me right now, if it weren't for my responsibility to take care of Grandpa in his old age, I swear I'd grab a knife and kill her. I clenched my teeth so hard it felt like they'd shatter. I forced my rationality to suppress my impulsive rage. "So, let me get this straight. My mom should thank you and your mother for stealing William away from her?" I told myself to hold back. Revenge is a dish best served cold. Good and evil always get their due. It's just a matter of time. Thinking of the plans I had for what came next, I exhaled deeply, trying to release the fire burning in my chest. "No need for gratitude," Zoe said smugly. "As long as you're willing to accept us, we'd be perfectly content." "Olivia," she continued, her voice dripping with false innocence, "Ethan said that if you came back and apologized to me and our parents, we could move on from today's unpleasantness. He'd even go ahead with the wedding as planned. Imagine that. The 5 of us living together as one big happy family. Wouldn't that be wonderful?" When Zoe mentioned apology, her tone darkened with a hint of malice. "Give the phone to Ethan," I demanded, tightening my grip on the device. I had no intention of wasting another word on her. "Ethan is in the shower right now," she replied, a sly undertone in her voice. "Oh look, he forgot to bring a towel. Let me take one to him. Ethan, your fiancé wants to talk to you." Zoe didn't realize that I already knew about the 2 of them. She deliberately flaunted her movements, and I could hear her open the bathroom door where Ethan was showering. The hinges on the bathroom door in our marital home had been poorly installed, so they made a distinct creaking sound whenever the door was opened. I had already arranged for someone to come fix it. Even though I couldn't see what was happening just from the sound, I knew that Ethan had let Zoe into the bathroom of the home I was supposed to share with him. "Zoe, why would you bring it in like this? What if?" Ethan's voice carried a hint of irritation. Even he wasn't oblivious to the fact that Zoe's little stunt was her way of staking a claim in front of me. "I'm sorry, I didn't think too much about it," Zoe whimpered, her voice trembling with exaggerated remorse. "I just wanted to encourage Olivia to come back and apologize to you. Just like you said. I forgot that she doesn't know about our relationship yet." Zoe's tone was laced with a vulnerability that would have made any woman cringe. Men, on the other hand, often found such performances irresistible. Listening to her syrupy voice made my stomach churn. I decided to check the footage from the indoor surveillance cameras I had installed just 2 days ago. The video showed Zoe wearing the lingerie I had picked out for my wedding night. She stood there, clutching the hem of the delicate fabric like a helpless little lamb. Her heavy bangs slightly obscured her teary, doe-like eyes as she glanced timidly at Ethan. Moments later, tears began to fall one by one onto the bathroom floor. Ethan, who had been ready to scold her, softened at the sight. His anger dissipated, and instead, he scooped her up in his arms and carried her to the bed I had so carefully chosen for our future together. "Liv," Ethan began, his voice taking on a patronizing tone even as his hands moved with unrestrained intimacy, "I need you to understand something. Before our marriage, I could treat you like a little girl. Indulge you, spoil you, love you unconditionally. But after marriage, you need to grow up. I need a partner who can stand shoulder to shoulder with me. Before you join me in building a family of our own, you need to sort out the issues within your own family. This is the first challenge you must face as the eldest daughter-in-law of the Jiang family," he said, his tone firm and didactic. If I hadn't seen the video with my own eyes, I'd never have believed Ethan capable of such hypocrisy, lecturing me with righteous fervor while shamelessly seducing Zoe. "Is the title of eldest daughter-in-law gold-plated or encrusted with jade? Why should I care?" I retorted coldly. "You like Zoe, don't you? Then give her the title." "I don't want it." "Ethan," I declared firmly, "listen to me. I, Olivia Zhang, want to break up with you. I've always believed that when it comes to breakups, the woman should have the final say." The moment those words left my lips, Ethan ceased to matter to me. "Olivia Zhang, you'd better be joking," Ethan snapped. "Do you even realize what this means? Have you informed George? He's the one who pushed for us to be together. Do you think you can make this decision without considering his feelings?" Ethan always assumed that it was Grandpa who had orchestrated our relationship. He thought I pursued him because I believed he was extraordinary. What he didn't understand was that, in Grandpa's eyes, the most extraordinary person in the world was his granddaughter. "Grandpa already gave his blessing," I replied coolly, "so you don't need to worry about it." After saving the incriminating video, I found the footage so nauseating that I exited the app and ended the call. Then I uploaded the video, carefully blurred to obscure their faces, on every social media platform I could think of. I'm a moderately popular influencer, and my followers had witnessed every step of my journey, including the design and decoration of the marital home Ethan and I were supposed to share. Even though I had blurred the footage, my followers immediately recognized Ethan. They also noticed that the woman in the video didn't match my build. Using details like Zoe's bracelet, hairband, and petite stature, they quickly deduced her identity. What followed was chaos. My fiancé caught on camera in our marital home, on our marital bed with another woman. Cheating, infidelity, moral corruption, scumbag. The comments section of my posts exploded with these words and more. It was going to be an interesting day. It was almost ironic. Ethan's mother had been following me online for years. She was practically my #1 fan. So when she saw the video and the comments flooding in, she wasted no time in reaching out to me. "Liv, Ethan didn't mean it. It's just that you pushed him too far today. So he brought Zoe to your marital home deliberately to provoke you. Men need to be coaxed. If you take the first step, apologize, and admit you were wrong, he'll never dare go against you again. Margaret always had a penchant for lecturing me. She would frequently send me short videos preaching about traditional virtues for women: obedience, submission, sacrifice. I had always ignored them. Margaret, Ethan and I are over. Please don't contact me again. I typed my response word by word before blocking her. In the past, I tolerated her endless preaching for Ethan's sake, but now I couldn't be bothered. Not for a second longer. After all, my video wasn't meant for her. I was waiting for Victoria. And she didn't disappoint me. By noon the following day, Victoria called me. Olivia Zhang, what the hell do you want? Victoria was leagues ahead of Zoe when it came to scheming. I'd spent 3 years trying to draw her out, but she always stayed one step ahead, refusing to take the bait. This time, if Zoe hadn't foolishly handed me the perfect opportunity, I wouldn't have known how much longer I'd have to wait for this call. What do I want? Nothing much. Your daughter willingly became a mistress, willingly let herself be used. I'm just exercising my right to ensure she's ruined, her reputation in shreds, condemned by everyone who sees her for who she really is. I had always known Victoria was watching me, lurking in the shadows. The worse my life seemed to get, the more radiant her posts on social media became. So I was certain, if Margaret could recognize Ethan in my video, then Victoria would undoubtedly recognize Zoe. Delete the video. I'll send your sister abroad, restore the allowance that should have been yours all along, and even prepare a proper dowry should you choose to marry Ethan. I won't let you be humiliated in his family. Victoria laid her cards on the table, offering what she believed I desperately wanted. She spoke with confidence, even assurance. After all, ever since my mother passed, she had held the reins of my family's finances. It was because of her that I hadn't been able to study abroad as planned, that I hadn't been able to pursue the career I truly desired. Now she was offering to give it all back. By all rights, I should have been overjoyed, moved to tears even. Save the dowry for your own daughter, Zoe. I don't need it. I declined her offer coolly. There's no denying it. Being at someone else's mercy is a far cry from holding all the power yourself. The sheer clarity and exhilaration of being in control were unmatched. What do you mean by that? Victoria had crafted Zoe's image meticulously, positioning her as the epitome of an elegant socialite. She was strict with Zoe, regulating her curfew, scrutinizing her friends, and ensuring her every move was above reproach. But she had overlooked Ethan. Aren't you curious who Zoe's been involved with? It's Ethan. You once went to great lengths to steal my mother's place in my father's life. Now Zoe's following in your footsteps, trying to steal Ethan from me. But unlike my mom, I know when to let go. If Zoe wants Ethan so badly, I'm happy to let her have him. I thought of the contents of the suitcase I had uncovered piece by piece. Photos, videos, everything Zoe had hidden under Ethan's bed in their so-called marital home. I meticulously documented it all before sending it to Zoe's university. Of course, before forwarding it to her school, I sent everything to Victoria first. If you're going to strike a snake, you aim for its head. For all her faults, Victoria's one redeeming trait was her unwavering love for Zoe. So, to destroy Victoria, I would systematically dismantle Zoe's life. Victoria was so proud of her, Zoe, the soon-to-be graduate of H University. Well, I would ensure Zoe never graduates. Victoria dreamed of marrying Zoe into a family far more affluent and powerful than the Zhangs. I'd block every path she could take to climb. Victoria had poured her heart and soul into grooming Zoe, sparing no expense after marrying William to pave the way for her. I'd make sure Zoe could never set foot in the industry she aspired to. An entire suitcase of evidence, cheating on exams, hiring proxies, explicit photos lay bare before me. If I hadn't gone back to the marital home to retrieve my belongings, I never would have discovered these secrets Zoe had stashed away. Olivia, I know you hate me, but if you want revenge, come at me directly like you did yesterday. If I, Victoria Lynn, so much as blink, you can call it my loss. But Zoe is innocent. She's just a child. You're her sister. You can't do this to her. Victoria's voice cracked as she saw the evidence I sent her. She was panicking now, her usual pretense of gentleness replaced by raw desperation. She wanted nothing more than to reach through the phone and tear me apart. Don't worry. I won't let you off the hook either. But you seriously underestimate your daughter. Zoe has never been innocent. I wasn't interested in rehashing my wounds in front of Victoria. The things Zoe had done to me years ago were no less despicable than what Victoria had done to my mother. This mother-daughter duo deserved every bit of what was coming to them. I believe in justice and karma. But more than that, I believe in crafting my own justice with my own hands. And so, the news of Zoe's cheating scandal during an exam spread like wildfire. Just as I had predicted. It caused a massive uproar at our school and even stirred a nationwide sensation. Zoe was expelled from school and ostracized by the Jiang family. No matter how much effort Victoria put into damage control, the entire social circle was abuzz with tales of Zoe's audacity and recklessness. A mother seducing her best friend's husband. A daughter seducing her brother-in-law. Like mother, like daughter. The family legacy continued. What surprised me the most, however, was William's sudden decision to divorce Victoria after Zoe's scandal broke. I had always thought that William's willingness to abandon his wife of decades for Victoria was proof of his undying love for her. No matter how much evidence I had sent him, thick dossiers detailing how Victoria had embezzled his money during their 3-year marriage and siphoned off their joint marital assets, he always seemed blind to it. In fact, I had prepared myself for the possibility that William might not believe me. I even had a backup plan ready. But he believed me against all odds. When I first heard the news, I was momentarily stunned. If William had been this clear-headed from the beginning, perhaps my mother wouldn't have died. Olivia, are you satisfied now? I ran into Victoria and Zoe at the airport. They were waiting for their flight, and I couldn't help but marvel at how small the world was. We were face to face. Not quite. I looked Zoe in the eye, her expression seething with rage, and answered calmly. My mother had paid with her life because of Victoria and Zoe. All they had lost was their social standing, and even then they walked away with a substantial fortune. If anything, they still came out ahead. What was there for me to feel satisfied about? You think kicking us out means your father will take you back? Don't be so naive. You probably don't even know, do you? Your father's already dating someone new. This time she's only in her 30s. Victoria's voice dripped with venomous resentment. She had thought that marrying my father would bring an end to her turbulent life. She never expected to be cast out in the end. William stopped being my father the day my mother died. If he wants to get married again, that's his business. After all, he didn't have much time left. After parting ways with Victoria and Zoe, I received a call from Ethan. Olivia, I'm calling to tell you this. Whatever happened between Zoe and me, it was all her initiative. At the very least, once I committed to our relationship, I never intended to betray you. Ethan hadn't been having much luck lately. Since the scandal with Zoe came to light, he had been grounded by the Jiang family and had his credit cards frozen. The once carefree young man who loved to laugh now looked years older, his face lined with exhaustion. For all his faults, my grandfather had been right about one thing. The Jiang family upheld a strict code of conduct. Even though Ethan was their own son, this scandal was an embarrassment they couldn't tolerate. Naturally, they treated him with nothing but cold disdain. It takes two to tango. I didn't say much more to Ethan. That was the only response I gave him. He seemed eager to say something else, reluctant to end the call. But I hung up first. I've always preferred to walk away before others get the chance to leave me. Ever since I watched my mother's hand slip out of mine, I've hated the feeling of being the one abandoned. 6 months later, while on a trip with my grandfather, I received a call from the family butler. William was on his deathbed. Perhaps learning from his experience with Victoria, he hadn't remarried in the past 6 months. I instructed them to cremate him, and once the ashes were ready, I returned to the Zhang family estate with my grandfather. As his sole legal and biological heir, I naturally inherited everything he left behind. When Victoria heard about William's sudden death just 6 months after their divorce, she couldn't figure out the truth, but the timing clearly unsettled her. She called me screaming obscenities. I've played the game my whole life, and now I've been outsmarted by a mere sparrow. Olivia, you're ruthless. I have no idea what you're talking about. Whether you're fine or in trouble, don't contact me again. When my mother was diagnosed with late-stage cancer, she told me that William's health had also been deteriorating. Out of some lingering sense of care, she hadn't informed him about his condition and had even instructed the doctors to keep it from him. She never imagined that William would move on so quickly after her diagnosis, finding solace in Victoria. In the end, she didn't have the time or energy to warn him about his illness. And so I've always believed that fate has a way of balancing the scales. Justice will be served. It's just a matter of time.